Alright, so today I am sitting in front of the Martinsburg Library, or to the side of it, whatever you want to call it, and I am going to talk about a little bit more about psychology, a little bit more about trauma-informed care. Part of the speech I did at the National Wellness Conference in St. Paul at the River Center a few years ago was about trauma-informed care from the survivor's perspective. So there's a lot of people out, that was in St. Paul, Minnesota. There's a lot of people out there who have stuff. Okay? I'm all like, I've called them zombies in the head, I call it baggage. Just lots of stuff. I'm all like, it's everyone from veterans who've had war experience to childhood trauma survivor such as childhood abuse, to torture victims, to someone who has been a survivor of war, not maybe in the military, to people with car accidents, depending on, how it went. Everybody's got a little bit of something. It's all about what you do with it. I've been through quite a few things, and for a good portion of my life, I attempted to confront them and then would back away from them. Run away from it, and then, it was too much. I maybe wasn't with the right people. So I compare a regular counselor or therapist, even psychologist, to kind of like an ER doctor. So what I mean by that is that an ER doc knows a bit about everything and can, quickly assess and then, patch up or do a great job on most things. But say someone comes in with a TBI or something where, like they're going to call a neurosurgeon or other specialists. If someone's got really big heart problems and it doesn't have to be solved that second, but they have time to call someone in, they're probably going to call in a heart specialist, a cardiologist. So what I mean with that is that in order to deal with certain traumas, in order to deal with kids, teens, youth, so different ages would be different perspectives and different methods to use with them regarding trauma and regarding different types of trauma. So I always recommend that someone see a specialist who specializes in your type of trauma, so that you don't inadvertently get hurt or get scared or have unwanted consequences of having therapy with someone, because at least you're making the effort, as well as being able to gauge whether you're actually ready for something or not. Now that can be your counselor as well, but some people like myself are like, well, let's just go get it done, and that's not always the best approach. I can tell you, I went into treatment one time. I'm all like, not really for drugs, but for mental health, and I decided that I would unload everything pretty much traumatic that I had kind of happened in my life in a 21 or 28 day program. Now, if you talk to pretty much any professional, they're going to say, that's probably not the best idea, but I didn't consult anyone. I consulted myself, and myself said, I want done with this stuff. I just want to be through with it. So I kind of I call it verbally or emotionally kind of vomited out most of what, kind of had happened throughout my life. And as a result, I ended up starting to disassociate, which means you kind of disconnect with reality. There was just so much trauma that I let out and tried to get out, and whatever, that I kind of overloaded my brain. The brain is an amazing thing. Now, I had sexual molestation from a next door neighbor happen off and on from when I was 4 years old until when I was 12. And when I was 12 and it stopped, like, my brain compartmentalized that by itself so deeply that I didn't recall it at all. Like, I was in the midst of what I was in the midst of, we'll just say an unhealthy living situation, and like, my brain knew that I couldn't handle having this on top of it, so it just didn't erase it, but we'll just say backstored it or backfiled it for a period of time later when I would be able to handle it. This is something that I've wanted to study big time. Why I wanted to become a PhD in psychology and do studies on people who have repressed or recessed memories that end up coming forward at some point in time later. I kind of wanted to do like brain scans and like figure out how our brain does this, because, you know, it probably saved me, and I didn't do it myself. My brain just kind of did it. It locked it away and saved it for later. When I was 15 and in a psych ward for depression for the first time, I was diagnosed with major and clinical depression at 10 years old after my grandfather died. When I was 15, I was diagnosed with PTSD. It just, there was just a lot of stuff. But when I was in there for the first time, it was the first time that I had felt safe pretty much in my life. And my brain decided to unload or unroll that whole deal. I had nightmares, I had flashbacks, I thought I was going crazy because, I was 15 years old, I was around other kids, and if you see something when you're awake, like a vision, or like, I don't even know what you would like call it if you haven't had one, where you're like flashing and it's almost like a movie in front of your eyes of something, and I didn't understand it. And then, I confided in someone, and I didn't understand mandated reporter, and they didn't explain it. So, I'm a mandated reporter, and so, like, if someone discloses that they're suicidal and they've got a plan and whatever, like, I have to report that to the state. Once you're a mandated reporter, you're one for life. It's just there. And honestly, I think it's a good thing. So something like that, or if a child discloses to me that there's, abuse in the home, or anything like that, like, I have to report it. If it's not disclosed to me, that's just up to you then, as a good Samaritan or a good person, to report stuff that you see. So I call that not side-sitting. I'm all like, if you see something, like, if you can directly say something, do it. If you can't, then say something to a professional and someone who will listen and actually take care of something. Something was reported without my permission. Not that you, give people permission when you're a kid to report something. In fact, I begged them not to when I was 12 years old. But we got a visit, 3 weeks later, after evidence was gone of what had happened, and they inspected the home and talked to my parents separately from me, and then pulled me aside and told me that I should be grateful. The people that they see were poor and like didn't have enough food, or shelter or clothing and stuff like that. And, you know, personally I was like, well, I didn't ask your freaking ass to be here in the first place, and I really don't need this lecture because you have no idea what I'm living with. Just because things look great on the surface doesn't mean jack shit. Thank you. Please don't judge things by their covers. I, you know, protested and begged this person not to report anything because I knew that I was going to get in big ass trouble. So, you know, I'm all like, that's another thing that you have to consider. I'm all like, is it going to be safe for that kid if you report it? Is the agency that you report to going to do something like they did to me? You know, discount, downplay, and basically brush it completely off. Make the appointment for 3 weeks later so that you don't see what was there. It's a hard road to judge, but, you know, I don't know. I guess I'd rather have someone say something than not. But it taught me and reinforced things that had already been reinforced, which was you don't say shit to anybody. I'm all like, you just keep it to yourself. Nobody knew that anything was happening in my home for the most part. And that's just the way it was. You know, kids at school didn't really know. When something happened to trigger my friends to like push me forward to this counselor, it was like the first that they ever really knew that anything wrong was going on at home. I think one or two of them suspected something, but they didn't have any idea what. They just knew I didn't want to be there. I was in sports and extracurricular activities. I was, you know, as soon as I could, when I was 13, 14, I started working at Walgreens. Anything to be out of the home. So I don't know. I just, like, it's tougher with kids, you know. And I think sometimes it's hard to know how to do the right thing. But if you know stuff is bad, and, I mean, you can tell on the look on their face, you know, when something happens and they get hit, or they're getting pinched, or they're getting yelled at, that, like, something's wrong. I mean, like, sometimes they'll just look at you like, can you do something? You know, like, and when people don't, that gives them the signal that what? It's okay. It's acceptable. I deserve this. It's, you know, socially acceptable. It's right. You know, like, what are we telling kids? Honestly. And as far as sexual abuse goes, I'm all like, sorry, but 97% is someone that you know. They have to have access to your child, and most of the time, you know, it's someone that you trust to have access to your child. So, you know, I'm sorry, but look to your own. I'm all like, my case actually was more rare. A next door, you know, neighbor person. Usually it's a family member. There's only about 7% chance that it's not your family or someone involved with your family. Strangers is like 1 to 2%. So it's rough to like think like that, but I mean, like, I have not pity but understanding for pedophiles and sex offenders. They have stories too, but again, like, it's a reason, not an excuse. How did they get that way in the first place? What happened to them? I'm all like, that does not mean you should not stop them or punish them or whatever else, but I mean, we're talking like, pedophiles don't get good enough sentencing. They also don't get the right kind of treatment. It's like punishing and shaming, and you know what? They're probably already punished and shamed when they were growing up. And you don't address their abuse issues. So I'm all like, it's difficult, but like, we're not doing the right things. And as far as like rapists go, I mean, it's a joke. 9 out of 10 rapists don't ever get convicted for shit. And I mean like ones that did it. And plea bargaining, it's same. Maybe 1 out of 12 will plea bargain and, like, you know, admit that they did something or whatever. It's freaking ridiculous. And the treatment for that, more BS. I'm all like, it's about power and it's about sex. You can't say it's not, because if it was just about power, you'd be looking at someone who's more domestically abusive. So where does that predilection develop? Often it stems from childhood abuse. It also stems from relationships with older people in like middle school and high school. They often target the person who, or type of person who abused them in a violent way to kind of like get back at them. So I don't know, I'm all like, people need to look at things in a different way. If I've been a victim of stuff and I'm a survivor of stuff, I'm all like, and I can talk to someone and help whatever, like, so can you. Forgiveness is huge. And no, it's not just, you know, for you, and it's not just for them. I'm all like, it's so that you can let go. I'm all like, and stop hanging on to that crap. And I mean, that's about everything. So I guess I'll pause there. Thanks.